Varun, as you know, is the Executive Vice President and Chief Product Officer for Airtel Digital. I've known Varun for some time. Uh, Most of my, rather all my conversations with Varun are very engaging. That's because of Varun, nothing from my side. Very passionate, a very insightful person. I mean, you'll see it yourself. So welcome, Varun. Thanks a lot. Thanks for making time to join us. I think all the conversations we had so far, it was you and I talking to each other. Probably it's the first time there is an audience. Yeah, there are like 80, 90 of them. They can hear every word you're saying. Hopefully that puts some pressure on you. No? So Varun, working for Airtel, fourth largest market cap company in the country. The kind of innovations you drive, I mean, you're basically impacting the society. So must be busy time for you? I mean, how does it feel like?
Yeah, I think busy doesn't closely describe it, but I think one, thank you for having me here. It's always fun to be at some of these MoEngage mixers. I was there at Bombay last time, but coming to your point, I think working with Airtel is a very different experience. Just to give you context, most of my career I've worked in Australia and the United States, and I've been with Airtel for like 6 years now. Um, the unique thing about what Airtel does is it's a very India company solving a very India-centric problem set, right? I think we have a vast country. We have 1.4 billion people, and connectivity is at the core of a lot of what we do. But that's not enough, right? I think when you think of the problem space, the Indian customer is a very demanding customer, right? They know what they want. They want it fairly quickly, and they want quality and value. And I think that is kind of what keeps us on our toes to make sure that in everything we do, in terms of decision making, the customer comes first. And when you orient yourself like that, we're obsessive about getting it done in a way where if you can put yourself in the shoes of the customer and experience what they go through, that's kind of the core of what we do. And it's kind of been very transformative in the time that I've been here because our ambition was to understand the customer better. And I'll talk a little about it and I'll share a few examples. When you say, hey, I want to put the customer at the center of it, you also have to have a way to do it and to deliver the kind of experiences that they're expecting, right? And a business like ours is a digital business, but it is also by nature of what we do and by nature also sometimes regulations, there's a very large offline presence. So there's, think about it this way, we have a billing relationship with more than a third of this country. We serve connectivity from mobility, broadband, we do digital TV. We have a business which is a surveillance business. We are working with customers who are new to credit customers, and we have a financial services business. And I think when you get into this, creating great customer experiences and serving your customers is at the core of it. And one of the things we've evolved over the time is the ability to understand customers' intent and the context of a customer. So as a customer, what is it that you want to do? You may want to buy a service. You may want to fix a problem that you have with your service. And then also the content. So I'll give you a very simple example. Normally, if you're trying to go sell something to a customer, you also want to know what is the propensity that they're going to buy. And we're here from a growth standpoint, and I think growth, the foundation of growth is a lot of data about your customers. And I think we're today sitting in an ecosystem where we have a tremendous amount of data, but we also need to be responsible about it and know what to do exactly with it. So I'll give you an example. So today, if one of our engineers goes to fix a problem, once they fix the problem, the question you have to ask is there an opportunity to offer the customer better service? How does that engineer know the context of that customer, right? Or a salesperson, if a salesperson is picking up the phone and calling you or going to your house and asking you the question, hey, would you like a new connection? the chances that you will say yes will be very low if you have a complaint pending with any one of your services. And I think that context becomes very central to being able to connect with your customer. We also, from an experience standpoint, think about this, right? As a digital TV service provider, we also are responsible for large screen TV experiences, right? Once upon a time, the connect would be, I'd consider TV just as a content viewing platform. Today, our digital TV services have smart set-top boxes. There's a lot of things you can do with it. You can customize what your favorite channels are. You can see what recommendations are for you. And so your experience is very tailored to who you are or the kind of household you're in. And I think that is really at the core of what we're trying to do, is to put customers first and bring them experiences that, one, enrich their life, and secondly, make them a proponent of, hey, refer to your friend. And that's really your customer life cycle, right? So make sure that you're connecting well when you want to go meet them. You're making the experience to acquire easy. You're making their life cycle during having their product so that they become ambassadors for you. And I think that's really the heart of what we have to do. And I think, like I said, India is like this vast ecosystem, and it's a great responsibility. And quite honestly, I feel very humbled to be a part of that story.
Yep, yep. No, absolutely. I think it will be interesting if we can talk more about how we are driving growth with the digital channels.
Yeah.
And then there's this beautiful Airtel stores, right, in every city. I've been to a few, so I can vouch for it. So how do you leverage the phygital world, right?
Great question, great question. Just to give you context, digital channels are at the center of our digital strategy, right? I think three things, if I was to say, have changed the ecosystem since over the last 4 years. One is, of course, the pandemic effect. Pre-2020, to give you an example, online purchasing wasn't as prevalent as you see it today. Like in our prepaid recharge business, I remember we used to have a fairly, decent amount of recharges online, which is roughly about 30%. Post-pandemic, that number sits at 67%. It just shows you customers are more comfortable with acquiring services online. There's a greater level of trust. The second thing is, of course, access to high-speed internet and 5G, which is, again, this thing about I want this service now and here. And so when you think of digital growth in our industry, digital is an accelerant, it's a catalyst, but it also has to be very closely paired with the physical. So for example, you may want to buy a mobility or a broadband connection, but there has to be someone on the ground that goes installs it, someone on the ground that understands, does your KYC. And so while most of us think of digital channels and growth from a context of campaigns, so in a campaign, you'll make sure your audience is right, you'll make sure your content is awesome, and then you'll make sure the proposition for the customer is amazing. And that's kind of what we iterate on. That is one part of it. But when you nail that, how do you make sure you convert? So your campaign CTR becomes one part of it, but then can you actually go fulfill that order? Now, in the e-com ecosystem, you think about it as delivery. In our ecosystem, it's a lot more connected. So I'll share a little bit about what you said in the phygital space and how it connects back to accelerating digital online growth. We kind of learned that we have a lot of ground intelligence. I actually often say that your ground teams are some of your best growth teams. The reason is that they know the region, they know the customer, they know the area. Like in our case, I remember, like if you go down to a market, they'll say, "Aap tower wahan lagaoge, to ye 4 villages cover ho jayenge." And I think we went on a mission to codify that intelligence. So what does that mean? We took India and we created 1 by 1 kilometer square grids. And in our world, we call it grid ways of working. What does that do? It tells you where a consumption grid is. Let's take the example of New Delhi, right? You know where the consumption grids are is where all your residential areas are. And so you can focus your fleets in that space. And you're effective in terms of what you spend. and two, you know exactly which building is it wired, can you get there? So that's one part of it. The second thing in this ecosystem we did was we were able to map. We have about 150,000 field force engineers and sales teams. We were able to map the skills of these fleets. So we had 6 fleets that would do, someone would do install, some of them would do calling for customers. And so we were able to map fleets and optimize our fleets. So for example, if 2 fleets were doing the same job or jobs that could be done by the previous fleet, we were able to bring them together. So you now have an ecosystem where I can generate a very targeted online lead or intent to acquire, and then I can rotate it to the person closest to that location. And so having codified that, I know how to deploy capacity on the ground to the areas where I want to drive growth. And I'm saying this in the consumer context, and I'll share that how that works in the B2B space as well. And then when that person gets to the customer, you have the power of digital to tell that person exactly the context, what services they have, what is the task they have to do, what is the time slot the customer is available. So I think codifying on-ground intelligence is something which is very powerful. We built our own workforce management platform called Airtel Work, which does exactly this. It maps our entire field force, where they are at any point in time in the country, and which is the customer they need to serve at the closest point in time. And so that helps us drive, in terms of growth, there's 2 parts to it. One is, of course, it helps us be more efficient when it comes to acquisition, but it also helps drive customer satisfaction in the sense that I can make sure that the quality that I'm delivering on the ground is actually measurable. And in case that interface works well for us, what happens is you reduce churn, lifetime value of a customer goes up. So I think the phygital ecosystem is real. I think in India it's going to be there, coexist. Yep. Digital. You'll see more and more customers are going to become digitally savvy and have the propensity to transact online. But I think a lot of the growth, completion of that online experience is offline. And so connecting the two is critical and has kind of been successful for us. Whether it is you walking into the store or it is someone coming to your house, being able to connect the online and offline is a very, very critical part, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, awesome. I think actually I do have a good number of follow-up questions, but I'm thinking I'll rather leave it, some of those to the audience. So I'll just have a couple of more questions, and then I'll open it up to any of you who want to ask Varun questions. So please think it through what you would like to him to talk more. So this is a popular question, Varun. Many people ask me that I should ask you this.
Okay, fair enough.
Right. So MarTech platform.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm sure under the hood there is, I mean, people have already heard you're a customer of MoEngage, so I don't need to refer to that again. But talk to us more about how a MarTech platform is helping you in driving the growth. You spoke about digital channels, you talk about phygital. We know the scale at which Airtel is. I mean, it's huge, right? Hundreds of millions. So talk to us more about how the MarTech platform is working for you.
MarTech platforms, I think, are a very central part of any modern digital business, right? In our context, it was important to. So I'll give you a bit of context, right? When you're on the digital journey, there's a lot of foundational stuff you have to do. Well, I talked about single point of reference, understanding intent of the customer. All of this comes when you have the data to support it. And all of this comes if you have a very consistent omni-channel ecosystem. I talked about phygital, which means if I as a customer walk into a store and express interest in product 1, and then say, "Acha, theek hai, main soch ke batata hu," and then I go back home and I pick up the phone, you should know where to pick up that conversation from. That's the omni-channel ecosystem, right? You do that, you'll be able to convert that intent, because customer intent is always time-bound, right? What, in my opinion, MarTech platforms do very well is their ability to stitch and deliver an omni-channel experience, especially when it comes to how you apply them. So if you're sending through a campaign on email, you will know how to target that customer on different channels. So if you have, in our world, there's about 7 channels a customer can interface where you have the stores, you have IVR, you have the web, you have the app, and so how do I know where the customer wants to connect with me? Or how do I know what time should I send a WhatsApp versus a app notification? That becomes very important. I think MarTech platforms, and also your product does this very, very well, which is
Thank you.
they can, not a marketing thing, but they connect the data uh, to realize the goal that a business has. Very specifically, in our case, and we've had a partnership for a while. When we started this journey, we were busy focusing on our business and growing our business, right? Like, my core business is connectivity, and that's what I was focusing on, building that foundation. Now, when you're in the middle of that, you can't not grow. Like, you can get to a state where you've got all of this in place, but in that moment, I think, and I can share a couple of examples. In that moment, the partnerships with companies like MoEngage help us accelerate. And the way I think about partnerships, the partnerships are two-way things, right? I need to go to market fast. I need capability that I may not have at the point in time. And I think that's where MarTech platforms become very critical, especially if your core business is not digital. Having a MarTech platform almost becomes very critical for you to succeed unless you have an ambition to build one yourself, which is where, in our case, we were clear where we wanted a partner and where we had the right to win on our own. I think that balance is a very important part of building a digital business, and I think MarTech platforms have a very critical role to play. In our case, of course, we had a very, very large digital ambition, and we built a lot of this capability in-house, including our data and some of the delivery mechanisms. But we're still working with you. One of the best examples of this is, and it goes back to customer experience, is how many of you all have heard of the missed call service? Like, when you miss a call, you get an SMS, right? For many, many, many years, we just send an SMS saying you had a call. And if you know, the read rates on SMS are like 0.2%. No one, I don't know how many actually check SMSs unless it's an OTP, right? And so we said the medium has changed. Customers are on the Airtel Thanks app. It is something that we need to make that experience brilliant, saying if you missed a call or someone's phone was switched off when you call. And so what we did was we took our capability on the network and said, every time you miss a call, we will let you know on the channel that works best for you. And in this case, with smartphones and the Thanks app, we were able to deliver that, and you guys powered that on the notification on the app. So that's why it's very important to have a MarTech platform and have a strategy on how you want to leverage it. But in my opinion, the omni-channel stitch is really where most MarTech platforms shine if you use them well. Make sense?
Awesome. Yep. So, this is for the audience. Those of you who are Airtel customers, you must have got this message today. I'll just read this. It's 2 lines. Just got a message today morning from Airtel, right? So this I got. I'm sure most of you would have got it if you're on Airtel network. Airtel India's first spam fighting network. From now, we will identify spam calls. We will identify spam calls and SMSs and alert you instantly. Wow. Talk to us a little bit more, please.
So I think there was a press release yesterday in an event where we announced this. And again, it goes back to what I said first. Like, you put the customer at the center of what you want to do. And you start solving. So 1 in every 3 calls is a spam call today. And it's annoying. How many of you really are annoyed by spam calls every day? Right? It just drops in. It comes from all kinds of numbers. You don't know whether to pick it, not to pick it, if it's an important call. And I think we spent close to a year on figuring out what is the right way to do it such that it is convenient. It is because the experience on our network must be the best. And so we said, how do you tackle the menace of spam? And in short, we basically took a lot of network intelligence. I think we go through 2.5 billion calls a second. We analyze them. We figure out the patterns in it, and then we identify them as spam. And then if you experience it, when the phone call comes through, it'll say suspected spam. And the idea behind that is it saves you as a customer a lot of pain, a lot of wastage of time. It just gives you the convenience to say, do I really want to take it or not? If you think of it from a customer experience standpoint, it is about improving the quality of experience you have on the network. If you think of it from a growth standpoint, we're the only people doing it today, and it's a very intelligent system in how it's done. It's one of those levers that helps people go like, yeah, that's the network I want to be in, where I can focus on the things I want to do and not be bothered like 3-4 times a day with things I don't want to be bothered with. So that's a great example of just putting the customer at the center, leveraging technology, and delivering that goodness back to the customers.
I don't know if you want to answer this, but how do you know it's a spam call? Like, what analysis you apply?
I feel like saying secret sauce, but quite honestly, we have there's two parts that come together. We have a lot of network intelligence over the years. We built intelligent networks that can analyze everything from number patterns, calling patterns, origination. So there's one part that analyzes the calls as they come through the network, and then there's an AI engine on the other side, which then looks at these patterns and then creates and learns what spam is. So in short, and the thing is, you can train it; it gets better, and that's how it's done. Now, it's algorithmically, it's all programmatic. It's not human beings sitting behind it, and so it's a fairly advanced piece of technology, and we thought it was something that we wanted to share with our customers.
Awesome, got it. I don't think it would be fair if I keep asking all the questions, so I'll rather open it up now. Anybody in the audience would like to ask Varun a question? We'll pass the mic to you.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for helping the customers and keeping us at the heart of everything. So my next question is the very next thing, right? If somebody has met a fraud, somebody is calling that there are a lot of calls, there are a lot of reports around you. This is a common thing. बहुत report हो रहा है, all that. FedEx का एक आपका parcel है, something is wrong there.
Yeah.
So customer meets a fraud. Are you connecting the dot? Because right now people will do Google. Cyber cell पे कैसे reach करना है? How do I launch a complaint? Are you planning to connect the dots? Because that part is very critical. Saving.
I will say right now, our focus is to make sure that the calls and SMSs is what we get correct, and scale that for our customers. It's just launched. It's early. Future plans on that, fortunately, not something I can share. So.
Okay.
But good question. I think that makes sense.
Hi, Varun. This is Antriksh.
Hey, Antriksh.
I have one very critical question from you, from all of us, I think, that SMSs tries tightening the noose, and there are regulations coming in every day, every time. Should we rely SMS as the efficient channel for our promotional services, or are we looking at the end of the SMS business for us and should consider other channels such as WhatsApp, push, etc., etc.?
Did you say someone is regulating SMS?
Yes.
Yeah. So here's what I will say. Any channel from a growth standpoint, you want to evaluate it in terms of relevance to your customer. I may, as an individual, not prefer SMS at all. I'm like, there's more informational stuff or stuff I don't care about. That doesn't mean SMS is dead. I mean, when everyone is getting on the WhatsApp bandwagon, this is something which I said is worth asking, saying if you move from SMS to WhatsApp, what is to say that WhatsApp won't become the same as SMS? Why is SMS ineffective today is because there's so much on that one channel that your open rate, your read rates are super low. So as a marketer, as a growth person, you'll be like, yeah, I want to be the most effective on the channel that is. And so if you think about app channels, that's why people do it, because people intentionally install the app. Not to say the SMS business is over. I think we got to think through smarter ways on why and how SMS becomes viable. So think about OTP, right? When OTP came, everyone started opening SMS mailboxes. So it's just how you approach that problem. I will say in my personal opinion, it's really about, like I said, if you know that a customer loves SMS, so for example, if I'm on a feature phone, I don't have anything else. So every SMS is important to me, and that person could be my grandmother in my house, right? It's not even like demographically necessarily separate. If I am a very, and actually I'll double click on that a little bit. I'll take one step back and I'll tell you, when I looked at the Indian market, I kind of broke it down into three axes. And it's very important to understand our customers, right? So India is a very dynamic, very diverse market, right? So the three axes I think about is digital affinity, literacy, and time. And you can map most of your customer base in that. So I'll give you examples of each of these. I may be someone who delivers for a food delivery outlet, right? I may not be literate, but I'm fairly digitally savvy because that's my tool of trade. And time is not a consideration because that is how I make my money. Me personally could be highly literate, highly digitally savvy, but I may not have time. So what you design for me will be very different. How you target me will be very different. And like I said, my grandparents may have a lot of time, a lot of literacy, but not as digitally savvy. So now think about if you put your customers on this axis, you're going to start figuring out kisko, kahan par, kab, when you want to have the conversation. So the way I see it is meet your customers where the customers want to meet you. The SMS conversation is what it is because that was the only channel we had for a long time, other than leaflets and stuff, right? Today, the ecosystem is more dynamic. There are more options on the table, and between email, WhatsApp, app notifications, SMSs, you can reach the same customer effectively. So I don't think SMS is dead. I just think that you have to look at the ecosystem slightly differently. And the other stuff, of course, it'll keep happening. It'll happen everywhere. See, WhatsApp also, if you block, you're done. You can't reach that customer. So if you abuse WhatsApp and I block you, I'm not getting anything back from you ever again. And that's why WhatsApp, we have to be more responsible because you'll start losing that channel. I hope that answers your question. It's a bit long to... Okay.
I think we can take definitely one more question.
Hi, my name is Aditya. So we have seen since the childhood, like Airtel has been a big brand. So when it comes to pricing, like we all know trust, like we all trust Airtel, but when it comes to a pricing in tier 2 or tier 3 cities, their brand does not play a bigger role, but pricing might. So how do you deal with that situation when a competitor try to disrupt the market?
Thank you for your question, Aditya. I don't think I can comment on pricing. I will tell you, we are one of the most loved brands in this country. And if you travel far and wide, people may not know a lot of things, but you will find an Airtel in India, deep in India, right? And I think trust and brand recognition is there. I think that's really what is important, is that customers love you. I mean, the market moves. We do many things to work with the market, but I will say I've known Airtel for as long as my parents have had the service, and you're right. A lot of our customers are very loyal and very close to it, and that's why I said that the obsession at Airtel is how do you keep them happy, and how do you do the things that make our customers want to stay with us, and that's really what is important to us, right? I'm sorry I didn't directly answer it, but it's just...
Yeah, that works. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Varun. Varun, of course, will be with us till late evening. So feel free to ask him when you meet him anytime later in the day today.
Thank you for having me.
And Varun, thank you very much. Really appreciate you finding time to join us. Thank you.
Thank you. Gentlemen, for a picture, could we have a round of applause to Mr. Rao and Mr. Das in the house? And there was definitely a fireside chat with a lot of interesting questions. And before we let Mr. Varun go, sir, if I can just hold you back for a minute right here. So we're going to end this session on a lighter note. So there was a conversation that we started this growth mixer with, and you were busy with that contentful conversation with other gentlemen. So I'm just going to reiterate the questions and we want you to answer that. Very simple 3 questions and we had everybody indulge in that. Question number 1 is you being a leader yourself, and we would love to know that if you have to introduce yourself with a characteristic trait and attribute starting with V for Varun, what would that be?
That's complex. I can answer your first question.
Versatile.
There we go. Thank you.
Thank
But
you.
I thought you were going to ask me the question you asked me, saying what was your discussion.
Yeah, I mean, that is for the later part of the
That
evening.
I can share.
And second question is, one advice or one thought in the recent time that has moved you in terms of business. One advice you think is relevant when it comes to business, in general.
Well, if it's general, I will just say that I think focus on what you're doing is very important. I think if you just look around you, there's a lot of distractions. And when it comes to business, you need to know your metric and just double down on it, right? Like distractions are a dime a dozen, but success comes by focusing on the thing that you want to do.
Lovely, a round of applause for that.
But you wanted the answer.
And then the last one, as a leader yourself, who's that one leader or one person, personality that you look up to and why?
Well, it's Satya Nadella. And he said something to me which I hold with me truly, and this is part of why I said what I said. His point is like, whatever you do, make sure you know it's the most important thing to do, right? And I think what it does, and I've said this earlier also, is that I speak to a lot of people who were asking about the next thing to do. And they don't realize that what they're doing is actually pretty cool, because we all want to move on to the next thing, right? So I think for me, it's Satya. I think it's a very balanced approach to how he thinks about it. And this one thing that he said, like, stayed with me for a very long time.